Alright, James, first off, I'd like to commend you on the presentation there. That was very well put together. For me, at least, it was easy to follow. Some people who don't really study the topic, I can see, could be confused. A couple points that there's questions on that I just wanted to throw my couple cents in there. The dust that was found, now I've seen reports that they've analyzed dust that was collected off of the rooftops of neighboring buildings shortly after the collapses, and this dust contained pulverized concrete, bone fragments, as well as pulverized silicone and other heavier metals that are used in computers and computer components. Now, why is this important? The reason why this is important is because with a normal collapse, it would not have the energy capable to pulverize concrete, these computer components, or any type of human body parts with the pressure needed to pulverize it in this fine dust material. The energy just is not there. Secondly, about the collapse of Building 7. Now, again, this is all speculative, and what I really love about your presentation is that you emphasize that you're not going to go into the motives, because that's the way I try to go about it too. I don't go into the motives because I can't prove any of that. What I can prove is the basic physics that are involved. Now, with the Building 7, I've heard many things from, there was records being housed there from the CIA and other government agencies. Again, I can't prove that, but I can't disprove it. It's a possibility. There's probably some database somewhere that says what was in that building, who had offices in that building, etc. I haven't done that legwork, but I can just, kind of see how that would be the connection. Now, on to the towers themselves. You brought up the topic of the fires in the building. Now, I have seen many videos on official investigations into this, and one thing that remains constant in a lot of the videos that talk about the plane impacts is that most of them say, through computer modeling, that they hypothesize that a great majority of the fuel was burned up in the initial fireballs that we see in the videos. Also, when you're looking at the fires in the buildings, you have to consider the fact that the fires were burning black smoke. In this case, what it means is the fire is a oxygen-starved fire, which means that the fire is now cooling down. It has reached its peak heat and is now cooling down. Now, why this is important is because for any theory to include weakening of the steel beyond its load-carrying capacity, that would have happened at the peak of the temperature, not when it's cooling down. Steel is an extremely well conductor of heat. So the immediate time that fire starts to drop in temperature, that steel is also going to drop in temperature significantly, because it's got the entire outside of the building to dissipate that heat to. Now, I've taken courses in structural steel design, and I know for a fact what happened there. You can't explain that with just the heat of the fire, because there's a massive amount of steel in that structure. These structures are made of 3 sections apiece, and only 2 to 3 floors, I'll give you a max 3 floors, were burning in a 110-story building. You cannot tell me there's enough heat to weaken the entire steel structure of that building. Another thing to compound this is the damage was not uniform, like you pointed out. And in, I believe it's the South Tower, when the top came down, it came down at an angle. Now, one of my basic premises for arguing this topic is path of least resistance. Now, when you have a piece falling from a building, like you pointed out, with the masses, the larger mass hitting and the top mass kind of bouncing back, you have to apply that to the situation. In this case, you have this concrete and steel structure, and you have this tiny little mass. Now, even if you consider that this entire whole 2 to 3 floor section is completely cut off, you have this mass right here that should just hit it and it should bounce off to one side. Especially the piece, the south tower, that came down at an angle. It should have hit the non-uniform damage and slid off at an angle. Again, this is compounded by computer models that they've done of the impact only severing some columns, damaging others, and others remaining completely intact. And this is confirmed by people that were actually above the damaged floors that made it outside of the building through intact stairwells. So there's no way these towers are completely severed in that manner. And using that theory that I'm talking about, that path of least resistance, me and a colleague of mine have done a thought experiment of an imaginary masses that are just floating in space, and they're allowed to drop on each other, using gravity as the free fall with no resistance in between them. What the thought experiment entails is we take a mass of 20 and we take 90 masses of 1 to simulate a block of 20 floors and slam it into one floor apiece, about 3 meters apart, and dropping down until they hit the floor. Now, what we do in this experiment is we conserve energy and we conserve momentum, the two things that you need to conserve when you're dealing with a physics problem such as this. Without any resistance in there, we found that the structure, the thought experiment that we have, took 30 to 50% longer, depending upon the spacing, how precise you were, to fall than free fall speed. And this is with no resistance in between. This is basically air in between these floors. And it still took 50% longer to fall than at free fall speeds. Now this is important because when you consider the massive amount of concrete and steel that are in the way of these floors falling, there is no feasible way that from an engineering mind and through common sense, if you're actually going to analyze the situation, that these buildings fell at 10 to 12 seconds, which is confirmed by seismology at various points throughout the globe. Back on the building 7, I have seen drawings of the damage that happened to building 7. It was on to maybe 20 to 30% of the building in the front facade of the building, which again, when you go towards the common sense thing of path of least resistance, that building should have fell forward or into that damage pattern, but yet, as we see clearly in the video, it falls straight down. This defies all common sense on the subject. I don't really know what else to say. Like you said, you pointed out the one steel structure building that was burning for a couple days, and as of this event, since the official record says that these buildings fell from fire, these are the only steel structured buildings to fall from specifically fire. I guess I'm just going to leave you with that. I got plenty more evidence to go towards my cause here. I want to expand on our physics thought experiment that we did. But if you have any questions on anything I presented, I can try to find the links where I got my data from. I can link you to other videos that explain my data in more detail. Just send me a message here, or if anyone's watching who knows me on Facebook, send me a message there. Alright, this is Ed. Peace out.